Thank you, Lars Concorla. Taoiseach, in 2020, for €100, you got 16.5 gallons of fuel. In 2020. Today, that same 16.5 gallons of fuel now costs you €39.42. In 2020, for the €100 of fuel, you were taking €45 tax in diesel, you were taking €50 tax per 100 in petrol. Today, you are taking €62.74 in diesel and you're taking €69.71. So, for a gallon of fuel, which we were paying the same product for, and we're getting the same product today, you now have an increase per €100, or in 16.5 gallons of fuel, you have an increase in tax in diesel on €17.74 and in petrol €29.71. Even though we're getting the same product, we're paying €40 more per 100 for the same product, but you're taking €29.71 extra in taxes in petrol and €17.74 extra in diesel. This then has a knock-on effect for food producers, transport network around this country. Then we go to the hospitality sector, where the VAT rate was at 9%. We then had the minimum wage increase, which I welcomed, and I do. And then the government put the VAT rate back up to 13.5%. So left people no other option but to rise the price of their product, when they could have absorbed it if the VAT rate was left at 9% in the hospitality, which would have absorbed the increases. But no, you put back on 4.5% VAT and the increase, which means the cost of your lunch one time was €10. You're now paying €15 or €15.50 for the same lunch to absorb a cost because of the taxes changing. I use a business model for everything that I do, and I want businesses to survive. And common sense tells you that if you're putting in one thing like raising a wage, you have to absorb it somewhere. But by putting up the taxes, it actually dilutes or actually gets rid of the increase that you were given in the first place. So increase the minimum wage, but then you increase the product that they're trying to buy and trying to live. You've actually created inflation. But by reducing the tax rate back, which gives you back the same tax margin, because the cost of the product has gone up, you've less tax to take. That means that they actually get more for their money. That's common sense. That's a business model. People are in crisis in this country, working every day an hour. What to do what? To pay extra taxes. So what I'm asking to know is, will you please look at the VAT rate of 9%, to reduce the VAT rate at 9% for the hospitality sector. You can leave it at 13.5% on a bedroom stay, but reduce it for the working person.
I thank the Deputy for raising the issue. A number of issues there. I think one in terms of the petrol and diesel excise rates, and then the VAT on hospitality. And as you know, to take the first one, the government is very acutely aware of the impacts of energy price inflation and the broader cost of living crisis on households and businesses. Now, perhaps you didn't get an opportunity to dwell on the work that government has done, and I would argue government has acted decisively to lessen the impacts of inflation, including €12 billion in supports today to citizens to try and offset the cost of living caused by the energy crisis consequential on the war in Ukraine and the return or the post-COVID period. And in budget 2024 alone, it provided for €2.7 billion in once-off cost of living measures, including targeted welfare interventions, electricity account credits, the energy credits, reducing VAT on electricity and gas, and reduced public transport fares. And we also in 2022 had provided for temporary reductions in the excise rates of 21% and 16% per litre on petrol and diesel. Now, the good news is that fuel prices have fallen considerably, thanks be to God, from their highs of 2022, when a litre of petrol and diesel cost between €2.10 and €2.20, compared with between €1.69 and €1.77 today. And a barrel of crude oil on global markets costs $84, well below the highs of more than $110 experienced during much of 2022. And inflation Consumer inflation has eased from a peak of 9.6% in 2022 to 1.5% in June, all of which is positive news. And in terms of the summer economic statement, we're proposing to put 1.4 billion aside for tax, and we're looking at expenditure increase year on year of about 6.9%. Now, that's very significant, Deputy, by any yardstick. Now, we have provided for tax reductions over the last 4 years of government. The preference of the three parties in government, Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael and the Greens, is to maintain a focus on the personal taxation front. In terms of, so wages have increased. If we don't do anything with the personal taxation framework, you essentially would be taxing people. But to enable us to keep pace with wages and to make sure people are not taxed, that could cost up to 1.1 billion alone. We're being warned left, right and centre not to overheat the economy. So choices will have to be made. But the preference of the three parties is clearly on the personal taxation front. The cost of a full-scale VAT reduction would be about 750 million on top of your 1.4. Or if you were to try and do food alone, it's estimated around 550 million. So these are the choices that government will have to make.
Thank you, Taoiseach. In 2020, it was 120 euros a square foot to build a house. Today, it's somewhere between anywhere from 180 to 200 euros a square foot. On the taxes alone, on 23% on a 2,000 square foot house, you were taking an extra 4,600 euros in VAT. Now you're taking 9,200 euros because the same base cost for that house has gone from 240,000 plus VAT to 380,000 plus VAT for the same house. Same house, but you're taking more tax. So what is happening here is you work in this country, you pay tax. You don't qualify for anything. So what I'm looking for is a reward here for somebody that worked. I'm talking about people that go out and work, pay for their mortgage, pay for their house, and are no burden to the state. And these people work for the vulnerable people, for the people that can't work, and they have no problem with that. All they want is a reward system, that they have something left at the end of the week that they can say, listen, I have something. And they don't complain. But there's no reward for a person in this country that works. That's what I'm trying to say to you. They're taxed out of existence, no matter what way they go.
Thank you.
No, I mean, the government is reducing the tax on workers. We're reducing income tax for workers. We've reduced USC, Universal Social Charge last year. So the focus has been reducing income tax to give people more disposable income to enable them to spend at their discretion. That has been the focus of government over the last 4 years. We've also reduced the cost of services in terms of transport, in terms of education. The free book scheme has been a tremendous help to parents in terms of the school expenditure. We've abolished hospital admission charges. We've dramatically increased access to GP care, the biggest increase in access to GP care ever, which again reduces costs. The drug payment scheme reduced. A whole range of reductions in the cost of public services, parallel with consistent reductions in personal taxation. Now, you seem to want us not to reduce the taxes for workers, but rather reduce it elsewhere. And I mean, I don't know whether you believe we should have a 2 billion tax package or a 2.5 billion tax package. You need to perhaps specify what your priorities are. But our priority is to reduce taxes for workers, to enable workers to have more disposable income to spend on services at their discretion and on what their families want to, prioritise.